Fries is pronounced freeze? Yikes, bro. Pretty cringe. Is this an IRL debate? No. Myron offered. They might both be in their studio, but I said I don't trust. I'm not going to any conservative areas right now because I don't know if I'm going to get so I'm doing this at my house. Otherwise, I would have. To be clear, I don't think Myron would do anything to me. Prison breaks were described as insurrections, particularly when the persons freed were traitors. Both federal and state authorities after the Civil War described clan violence as insurrections. Let's see. Americans during the Civil War were familiar with the various forms that insurrections could take. One widely circulated account included Shays' Rebellion, the Whiskey Insurrection, the Burr Insurrection, and John Brown's Raid as examples of insurrections that occurred in the United States before the Civil War. Examples of widely regarded insurrections before the Civil War. Shays' Rebellion, the Whiskey Insurrection, the Burr Insurrection, John Brown's Raid. Don't give him that. The stuntfuck will give an ego boost if he thinks you're afraid of him. No, I'm afraid of some random person shooting and killing me. I don't think Andrew would kill me either. I'm not worried about Andrew or Myra. I'm worried about some random fucking crazy person. The constitutional law of treason and insurrection, when Section 3 was framed, made clear distinctions between levying war against the United States and adhering to their enemies. Persons levied war when they engaged in an insurrection by allying with others who owed allegiance to the United States to resist by force federal law. Persons adhered to their enemies when they supported foreign efforts to subvert American laws and interests. Constitutional authorities in the United States during the Civil War emphasized the levying war prong of the treason clause and of federal statutes punishing treason. When charging the jury in United States v. Greathouse, Justice Stephen Field explained why Confederates must be brought within the first clause of the definition of treason when he stated the second clause applied only to the subjects of a foreign power in a state of open hostility with us. The second clause, he continued, does not embrace rebels in insurrection against their own government. An enemy is always the subject of a foreign power who owes no allegiance to our government or country. The several amicus briefs that emphasize the two forms of treason failed to acknowledge that both treasons had the same elements. Actions assisting domestic insurgents that constituted levying war or engaging in an insurrection against the United States constituted aiding and comforting when assisting the foreign enemies of the United States. Judge Ogden Hoffman, Jr. contended in Greathouse. Every act which, if performed with regard to a public and foreign enemy, would amount to an adhering to him, giving him aid and comfort, will, with regard to a domestic rebellion, constitute a levying of war. Every act which, if performed with regard to a public and foreign enemy, would amount to an adhering to him, giving him aid and comfort, will, with regard to a domestic rebellion, constitute a levying of war. And conversely, every act which, with regard to domestic rebellion, will constitute a levying of war, will, with regard to a foreign enemy, constitute an adhering to him, giving him aid and comfort. Okay. Basically saying if you're ever doing anything that would help anybody in a domestic rebellion, this would count as like levying war. If you do anything to help a domestic rebellion. And then anything that constitutes a levying of war will also satisfy the adhering to him, giving him aid and comfort for an enemy as well, I think. Okay. A legal consensus existed from the Constitution's framing to Reconstruction on the four elements of an insurrection. Remember, I don't know if this is true always definitionally, but in law, factors are things that like play into things, like a mitigating factor or an aggregating factor. A factor is just a thing that could be a part of something. An element is a necessary requirement. So in law, if you're given a statute or if you're given something that has 3 or 4 or 5 elements, that means that every single thing needs to be there to satisfy the thing that's being spoken about, right? A criminal law that has 3 underlying elements means that if only 2 elements are present, you don't have the particular thing. An element means every part is required. So A legal consensus existed from the Constitution's framing to Reconstruction on the 4 elements of an insurrection. So all 4 elements need to be present for it to be considered an insurrection. An insurrection required an assemblage. Justice Benjamin Curtis spoke of a combination or conspiracy by which different individuals are united in one common purpose. The precise numbers of persons resisting law by force had no bearing on whether an insurrection occurred. Justice Samuel Chase, in the case of Fries, is it Fries or Freeze? Declared the quantum of the force employed neither lessens nor increases the crime, whether by 100 or 1,000 persons is wholly immaterial. That resistance was futile did not excuse the insurrection. The North Carolina Supreme Court in Shortridge v. McCone declared the armed attempts of a few, attended by no serious danger to the Union and suppressed by slight exertions of the public force, come unquestionably within the constitutional definition. Ooh, that's a good one. Let's see. Charge to grand jury, neutrality, laws, and treason. Curtis. Okay, let's. Supreme Court of the United States. I just literally clicked the same thing I got this from. Good one. Good one. Nope, not that. A combination. No. Combination. There we go. As the court has already said to you, the combination and assemblage of a body of men with the design of seizing and the actual seizing of the forts and other public property in and near Charleston, South Carolina, and some other states is a levying of war against the United States. Consequently, any and every person who engages therein is by the law regarded as levying war against the United States, and all who adhere to them are to be regarded as enemies, and all who give them aid and comfort in South Carolina or New York, or in any other portion of the United States or elsewhere, come within the express provisions of the first section, the April 30th, 1790, and are guilty of treason. Mentioned on Piers Morgan that the right brought us here to this level of rhetoric. Do you think progressives in the early mid-2010s kind of deranged the right? Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I think they were a little bit deranged, for sure. But I mean, like, you can fight against deranged people without becoming deranged, I would think, but who knows? Maybe not. Let's see, an assemblage. So we can quote. This is a. Oh, no, wait, hold on. This is not the same quote. Justice Benjamin Curtis spoke of a combination or conspiracy by which different individuals are united in one common purpose. 35. Charge to grand jury. Neutrality, laws, and treasons. Curtis. 30F. Which? 30F. Case 1032. Oh, no. 1025. Fuck. Oh, no. I need a different. Would you call this the volume or the location? If I back up, it's not going to let me load this. If I quote 1025, will I find it? It'd be nice to have like the exact, if I could rip the quote out of the case exactly. 1025 is just from the doc where it appears. Yeah, but I think this is starting at like 1032, so I don't have this prior thing, I don't think. So this quote is it'd be nice to have this quote exactly. A combination or conspiracy by which different individuals are united in one common purpose. Treason. Damn. Okay. A treatise on the law of evidence, volume 3. About what the fuck is this book? 1876. Whatever, okay. It's not that important, I guess. I really don't like taking a quote from a paper and attributing it to the paper's footnote. Makes me super nervous doing that. You should be familiar with the underlying material because there's a chance that this could be misquoted. That's why I usually like to read the underlying stuff. I mean, I would assume in this the guy's not doing it, but because I have no reason to not trust this author, but by Justice Benjamin Curtis. The quantum of the... Okay, this is also a really good quote. 36, footnote 36, the case of Freeze. No, fuck me. Circuit Court, Pennsylvania. This is in the year 1800. Oh, gee, this is a lot of good writing, too. Damn, hold on. Which quote am I looking for here? The quantum of the force employed. If a body of people conspire and meditate an insurrection to resist or oppose the execution of any statute of the United States by force, they are only guilty of a high misdemeanor. But if they proceed to carry such intention into execution by force, they're guilty of the treason of levying war, and the quantum of force employed neither lessens nor increases the crime, whether by 100 or 1,000 persons, is wholly immaterial. Okay. Damn. Um, let's see, can we interpret all the documents like this? Okay, so Circuit Court, Pennsylvania. So this is basically the first appeals court for the federal courts, and it's being written by who? Who's the writer for this? T. Pickering. Is he the writer for this whole thing? Or is this guy the writer? Wart Street TR.6. This looks like a reporter or volume thing. Justice Samuel Chase, saying Chase was the writer of this. I can always link the... case it's referring to. Whoops, okay. And then what was the year for this? Trump called for flag burners to be jailed again? Yeah, he does that. Fuck me, I need to stop clicking on the thing that I'm fucking reading. Okay, this is in 1861. That resistance was futile. Did not excuse the insurrection. The North Carolina Supreme Court in Shortridge v. Macon declared the armed attempts of a few, attended by no serious danger to the Union and suppressed by slight exertions of the public force, come unquestionably within the constitutional definition. Okay, this is also a really big quote. Control F, unquestionably. Can only declare the law on what sound principle. Then can we say judicially that levying the war ceases to be treason when the war becomes formidable? That war levied by 10 men or 10,100 is certainly treason, but is no longer such when levied by 10,000 or 10,100,000. That the armed attempts of a few, attended by no serious danger to the Union, expressed by slight exertions of the public force, come unquestionably within the constitutional definition. But attempts by a vast combination controlling several states, putting great armies in the field, menacing with imminent peril the very life of the republic, and demanding immense efforts and immense expenditures of treasures and blood for their defeat expression, swell beyond the boundaries of the definition and become innocent in proportion to their enormity? Okay. Can anybody tell me how long until Destiny Bits Enter? Is it not literally in my stream title? Is there like a problem reading titles? Is there any point in even putting stream titles? I don't. North Carolina Supreme Court, 1867. Shortridge v. Macon. Okay. An insurrection against the United States required resistance to any statute. Okay, so we're good on this. required resistance to any statute or some public law of the United States, Curtis reminded a grand jury the law does not distinguish between a purpose to prevent the execution of one or several or all laws. An insurrection could be directed at a legislature as well as at executive officials. William Rawle declared an effort to coerce repeal of a general law to be an overt act of levying war. Justice Field's opinion in Great House held that any effort to coerce the conduct of government constituted an insurrection. I can just copy paste his quotes, I guess. Fuck it. It's id, right? What do you put when you're referencing something that's already been referenced before? Fuck, I'll just have this here. An insurrection proceeded with violence or intimidation by numbers. Justice Robert Greer stated there must be a conspiracy to resist by force and an actual resistance by force or arms or intimidation by numbers, Marshall asserted. The most comprehensive definition of levying war against the king or against the United States, which I have seen, requires an assemblage of men ready to act and with an intent to do some treasonable act, and armed in warlike manner, or else assembled in such numbers as to supersede the necessity of arms. Oof. What a quote. Justice Marshall. No, wait. Yes. 45 was the year for this case. $1807. Okay. Seems like your reaction to the Trump shooting has become the mainstream talking points from us Dems. Why do you think your words rung so well with other Dems? Maybe worth reviewing. I don't know. It's hard to say how much I influenced one thing or another. I'm not sure. Who knows? Who knows? This force need not resemble a military engagement, Lieber noted. Armed or unarmed resistance by citizens of the United States against the lawful movements of their troops is levying war against the United States and is therefore treason. Herzl's monarchy argument references political class as loathsome. Why are aristocrats less so? Won't peasants still bicker on politics still? Don't aristocrats like do things and political people just like argue politics? Isn't that like the difference? Gonna do all this reading dressed for Wilson to argue about the speech the whole time and Myron playing air horn. Good luck. Thanks. How do you think this definition gets with BLM rioting or disruptive protesting in general? I mean, we can go and check the definitions after if you want. Okay, all right. An insurrection had a public purpose. Chase insisted when the intention is universal or general, as to effect some object of a general public nature, it will be treason. The public purpose could be to rectify a perceived injustice. Judge John Kane's charge to the jury spoke of insurrections to redress by force national grievances or to reform real or imaginary evils of a public nature. Oof, okay. Okay. The majority opinion then cited various historical sources, finding that an insurrection is more than a riot, but less than a rebellion, and correctly observed that no authority supports the position that insurrectionary conduct must involve a particular length of time or geographic location. The justices properly concluded the court need not adopt a single, all-encompassing definition of the word insurrection, because for this purpose, any definition would encompass a concerted and public use of force or threat of force by a group of people to hinder or prevent the U.S. government from taking the actions necessary to accomplish a peaceful transfer of power in this country. The Colorado Supreme Court correctly found that the events of January 6th were consistent with the legal understanding of insurrection when Section 3 was framed. Each element of a constitutional insurrection was present. There was an assemblage, hundreds of people breached the Capitol building, and thousands trespassed on federal land. We should have this down here. So January 6th, 2021. So there was an assemblage, hundreds of people breached the Capitol building, and thousands trespassed on federal land. That's obvious and easy. Colorado Supreme Court observed it is undisputed that a large group of people forcibly entered the Capitol. There was clear resistance to federal law. The trespassers intended to disrupt the proceedings mandated by the Electoral Count Act. Why do you feel like you have to put this together? Obviously, time is money, so there's a big financial burden to this. We had extensive TV coverage. Is it better to watch on Kick versus YouTube? What? Because I'm having a debate coming up about this. What do you mean? Anderson v. Griswold states, substantial evidence in the record showed that the mob's unified purpose was to hinder or prevent Congress from counting the electoral votes as required by the 12th Amendment and from certifying the 2020 presidential election. It's worth just throwing in here. You already viewed the John Eastman interview. It's interesting to hear him make the case for his coup attempt. We might have watched some of this, maybe. Maybe we'll watch it after. The resistance made extensive use of force. Many in the mob engaged in crimes of violence or threatened crimes of violence. The Colorado Supreme Court stated the mob repeatedly and violently assaulted police officers who were trying to defend the Capitol. Calls to hang Mike Pence did not suggest an attempt to achieve goals by rational persuasion. Thousands of trespassers engaged in intimidation by numbers. Reasonable members of Congress could presume that those who trespassed on federal land were serving as backup for those engaged in violence inside the Capitol building. The events in Washington, D.C. on January 6, 2021 satisfied each element of an insurrection to the same or greater degree as the events in Western Pennsylvania in 1794 that are universally acknowledged to constitute the Whiskey Insurrection. I should have at least a wiki understanding of this. Let's see. An assemblage resisting any law or interfering with the government by force, intimidation, and for a public purpose. Did he put the public purpose here? I mean, the public purpose, I guess, would be the resisting the certification of the vote, huh?